it, 'cause it was there. We're Art Sluts.
Welcome back. If you missed episode 1, you are now just discovering the dynamic musical experience of Ipek Eginli. Here's part 2 of my interview with Ipek Eginli. One of the other interesting aspects of your performances, tell me what the role of recording your performances is. That for you? Is it to kind of turn your brain on, or is it to look at later? Like, what's the role in recording your performances?
At the very beginning, so it is also it's something redeeming for me. My whole as someone who started playing the piano when I was 6 and started the full-time music conservatory when I was 9, and I was there middle school and high school and college all in one place, and we didn't have these regular classes, but we had music history, music theory, and harmony, and all of these like hours and hours of music, and we didn't get to perform. They didn't have us perform even for each other, and we were preparing for auditions that would happen once a year in June, and we would get our repertoire at the beginning of the school year, and we would just practice, and we would only play for our teachers, and it was just for that audition, so we would just get to the next year. Now when I'm thinking about it, it's just like it just feels like choking. And it was just, I never recorded myself. I never was able to record. I didn't have that idea. I mean, we had Walkmans and things like that, but...
It sounds almost athletic, you know?
Yes, it was very much, you can consider that, or military. Wonderful.
Right.
But I was so scared of listening to any recording that like, let's say we would have like a little concert for our friends and never the other teachers. Then if anyone recorded, God forbid, I just could not hear it. It would be my nightmare. So the first, I would say, over 20 years of my like music life was just avoiding having any recordings.
Wow.
And just would not listen to it. I couldn't handle it. Especially, like, it just felt, ugh. I would hear something and it was like, oh my God, that would just like give me pain.
Wow.
So I just really wanted to go against that. I just say, you're going to watch yourself. No, you're going to listen to yourself. Not only that, you're going to watch yourself.
Right.
And then I started really, and then before doing that, I said, I'm going to have an archive. I'm going to have an archive of my... And even there are people who know that goal. Like before I started playing a lot of concerts, I said, I want to have an archive. And that's why I even started creating all these performance opportunities, because I wanted to have an performance archive. And I started recording every single one of them. I would always make every concert, prepare my patches in a way that I could record it on Ableton. And then I would also have a video recording. And then I would watch it to create little clips. But then I would see all of it. And I learned so much about myself. I can't tell you exactly that I made decisions like, okay, don't do this next time. I don't do that. But I just simply watch it and I just learn. And it just goes in the back of my head.
Without judging.
Yes, it's really important. I don't just like, oh, this wasn't a good one, or this wasn't. I just kind of remember how I was feeling, and then I just watch. And I came to moments and I go like, this is nice. I remember feeling, I really like that. That's why you see moments that I smile suddenly. I just like something I hear. I really started enjoying the music that I was making. I did become one of the musicians that I really like listening to, and it's a great feeling to think that.
That's so fantastic to say that and admit that, because I don't know if other people are that way, but I play for myself, ultimately.
I love that. There's nothing wrong with that, and because it's actually, you're accepting a reality. If you didn't like what you were doing, you wouldn't do it.
Right.
And you wouldn't go out and play for people. And that's just ultimately and just accepting a fact and reality.
Right.
And that's beautiful. And we can talk about, a lot of different details of I personally don't think of music good or bad, but I know there are a lot of people do. So when you can get out of that idea, then it's easier to like your own music.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not judging it in this, in a way of rating it. Even when I compare, let's say I'm comparing two of my performances, I compare it as like I was more connected here than this one. That is my, let's say, judgment on it. But it's very helpful to remember that I not like this was bad or this was good. Even as a teacher, I always say, try not to use that. They are not descriptive. It doesn't, when you say good,
Right.
it doesn't give you any information. Bad, no information. Connected, there's more information. Why were you more connected? It creates almost like more of, like it puts more meaning that you can be curious about. So, and then I try not to use hard and easy, because then the very technically easy piece could be very difficult to interpret, for example, in classical music. So I'm a person is very, I try to be very mindful with the words that I use towards my daughter or with my music while talking to myself, because then I can just block myself for anything that I'm going to do next.
Right. Let's take a listen to an excerpt from her album Explorers with Daniel Levin. Another, I think, interesting thing is you do a lot of duos. You work with a lot of different artists. Is that something that you have always enjoyed, or is that something new in your exploration of music?
Again, going back, I was trained in a way that I would just be by myself in a piano practice room. I would just practice and practice and practice, and I would just go out and talk to people. That was my collaboration. But we weren't put in a place to even play chamber music for a really long time.
It's fascinating. It's hard to imagine.
Yeah, and they also had their own reasons. It's hard to judge it. Every year I'm thinking of my music background in a different way, and I'm always very grateful and appreciative. And Turkey is predominantly a Muslim country. We have our own culture, we have our own, and in this little building of 500 people at the most, trying to do Western classical music. Like, how are you going to make sure that these kids succeed with this really a foreign thing to them that they're never going to hear when they go out? Mm-hmm. So how can we create this environment for them that they can really be the best at what they do? And then they make choices, not necessarily helpful or healthy, and they go with a lot of traditions and things like that. But I was in a choir, and I loved being in a choir. And even before I started that music school, my first started singing in a professional choir. And we weren't singing, since we weren't Christian, there was no religious music in that way. We were just singing classical music. They were Christian religious music, but it wasn't from our culture.
Right.
And my first experience being on the stage was Mahler's 8th Symphony, and it's called Symphony for 1,000, which means that there's like a children's choir, a women's choir, a men's choir, and a gigantic orchestra. So the way that Mahler wrote, it was 1,000 people on the stage.
Wow.
It's crazy. And you take an 8-year-old and put her in that.
Uh-huh.
I felt music with my whole body.
That was it.
I mean, just the melodies, the massiveness, and I'm looking at people, everybody's performing, and I'm looking at hundreds of people watching us, and nothing else could have happened.
So powerful.
It was like, I always think of it like Spider-Man being, bit by a spider. Like right that moment, I don't think I could have been anything else.
Awesome.
It was just like written.
Yeah.
But from that moment, yes, my choir experience continued. But as a pianist, I wasn't playing with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I was, you're scared, but I wasn't given that opportunity. Later, I started playing when I was pursuing a lot of contemporary classical music in New York. I played with a lot of percussionists because that's what I was hired for. So I got used to playing really difficult rhythms and very difficult harmonies and melodies, playing in a duo setting. And I love that. So when I started doing more improvisation, I really wanted to feel that. But most of my life, again, I wasn't able to collaborate. So right now it feels like hunger. It's just like, I want to play with more people. And people might disagree with that. Sometimes I think of the idea of like, what if I build something with one person more? And I do that too. There are people that I play.
Like Kebbi, you play with him frequently.
Yes, Kebbi Williams.
You guys are great together.
And Chris Childs, Daniel Levin. So these people I play more frequently, and I love creating that sound world. But I also love just playing with people I don't know, and I get to learn myself more. It's not always as connected as other times, and that's always a good learning experience. It's a learning experience for me, however I want to look at it. And you pointed out in a great way that I wasn't even noticing as much. Yes, I specifically love duos. I liked trios. And as it gets bigger, your position in that group kind of changes, which could be lovely. But that conversation, I always do really well with one-on-one. Mm-hmm. It's like right now, and I love one-on-one in music or in real life.
Ipek is known for performing duets with little-known to famous musicians. Here's a live improvisation from Zeitgeist, New Orleans, January 2024 with Kebbi Williams.
As a musician, I left Turkey when I was 20 years old. And again, that was mostly my school time. And I would say in classical music, being a female wasn't that, this could be arguable. I think different people have different ideas, but that wasn't as strikingly different as in like as a touring musician or improviser doing experimental music, or there's an overlap with jazz musicians, even though I am not at all a jazz musician, in that those areas that you definitely see a lot of male. It's a very male dominant place. Sometimes I point it out jokingly and they don't even notice it. I mean, I went to a performance and
they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Which is very frustrating to me
sometimes
anyway.
there would be a bill like of, I don't know, 10 people. I would be the only female. But there would be really nice people. And,
right.
you know, there's nothing about, and they wouldn't even, like, people don't choose to do it that way, by the way. And those are who are making music too. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, oh, you're a woman, we're not going to add you. If anything, they would be more welcoming a lot of places, but it's just how it is right now.
I'm more curious. In middle school, it's pretty much boys, girls, all across the board. What happens? Where are these women around? Are they, and again, it's just something that I think about and wonder and sort of research through life, talking to different women and observing, but there's no reason why there shouldn't be more women in music. Or are there just as many women in music that are uncovered, like Rashida Ali, when we did the Women of No Words, that was her first solo performance. Whether she, I don't know, you know, but I think there are women maybe who are just not seen.
Yeah, both, I think. That's definitely, that's like one of the things that I think also sometimes we have these biases for ourselves as well. We believe a certain way. I was telling someone today, because they were telling like, okay, tell us about who you are. What do you do? And then people usually start, I am this or I am that. I try to use verbs. I am doing this because that allows me to not be that thing. I'm being this and I'm creating these moments, and it can change. And most of my music life, I've said I'm a performer. I'm a pianist. And then I didn't realize it's a whole outfit you put on, and you look a certain way, and then you are expected to be a certain way to be a pianist. Like, this is how you need to be to a performer. I said it so many times to myself, that I consciously and unconsciously, that I didn't even think that I could create. That doesn't even, like, I was like, I don't know if I don't know if I can do it. It's just, that wasn't a thing.
The choir was when you were absorbed by music and it became part of your life path.
I think everything coming together a little bit. I always made my own improvisations and my music at home. I was a kid, I played by myself all the time. I just random games. I would act out whole stories. I would turn around a guitar and and take a stick, and for hours I would act like I'm playing the cello. There was this play and improvisation in my whole life. And really, I have a sister. She's 8 years older than I am, but both of my parents were working. They're lawyers, and I was by myself all the time, and I just played and just made up stuff all the time. But I almost had this two personalities, that it was just very strict to do the classical music, do this and love that, and then you only do what they're telling you, and to the little smallest detail, and then just go home and be whatever you want to be, create whatever you want to create, and talk and laugh in any way that you want. So those two things were always going on in my life.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't live that around other people. It was still to this day, like, I like being by myself, just to be in those worlds that I create. But then, classical music turned into me doing a lot of contemporary classical, which is very close to, it feels like written experimental music is contemporary classical music. So sometimes people see my arms on the keys, they feel like, oh, that's big, or the newest thing. I mean, I did that while I was playing contemporary music or inside the piano things and all of those, or different things with my voice. And then when I started bringing back, with I think with time and age a little bit, not that I'm that old, but I was bringing back that, just combining that really playful me with all the exposure that I had. The Turkish music, the contemporary classical music, my classical technique that my playing, and all the things that I missed out in live in music, that are just kind of combined in a way that it feels like in the background someone was just like, let's put this here, let's put this thing right here, and then it just became this. I don't want to describe it as something concrete, but it almost felt like, well, hello, someday it just opened the door and it was just all fully ready. With just built with the experiences of my whole life, and then just like, and she said like, let's do it. Then we just teamed up and I started doing, so everything that I have done and I have been exposed, it just got into person, and then now I'm that.
And when you came to Atlanta, did you right away start moving in that direction, or was it later?
I actually was involved in contemporary classical music for several years. I was in groups like, I think they're still around, Terminus Ensemble of Contemporary Ensemble and Chamber Cartel. And I started my doctorate in Athens in piano performance. So I was still very involved, but I was still keeping things back. The playful improviser was a little bit back at home. But those are the times that I was exposed to Morton Feldman, for example, really a musician that I love, which showed me silence, or let one note ring and just listen to that. And all those things it was so hard because I could play fast and I needed to show that. And so I learned a lot when I first moved to Atlanta, completely a new place.
What year was that when you moved to Atlanta?
2010. And I was in New York for 5-6 years for master's degree in a bunch of teaching, and also playing for a percussion department with contemporary music gigs. But I was here for 4 or 5 years. It was just my doctorate in Athens and playing contemporary music in Atlanta and doing things by myself, just creating a lot by myself, but not having it out in public.
From Ipek's most recent album, Clouds Carry Me to the Sky Every Morning, let's take a listen to Thunder Don't Hurt as Much as You'd Think. it's so nice to talk to you and talk to another musician. And I love how generous you are with your process and the concepts of music. I think that's rare, that typically musicians, not to generalize, but especially instrumental musicians, they want it to be about the experience. Again, like you said, the audience, how they experience it is their experience. But yet I love that you are able to verbalize and almost express a philosophy of music. That's rare, I believe, to be able to explain the experience of music and performing. And that's not really a question, but it's interesting.
No, thank you. And I just, when you give when you share your feedback, it's so sincere to me. It's also, you are very generous with your feedback for me. And I love it. Incredibly meaningful for me. Not that I am doing sharing my expressions or my performances to get confirmation from people, but I don't always hear the best comments either.
Really?
As far as, because when you're out there sharing things that people are not going to be always understand, that doesn't mean that sometimes they have a hard time to put me in a place. They can't understand. Like, what are you exactly? What do you do? Yeah, I hear that. I recently heard someone said that it's really hard to understand your aesthetics, and I just went, that's great, thank you. And it's because then don't get me wrong, that kind of affects me, and then I try to ask, I try not to ask why did I hear that. I try to ask, why did that affect me?
Right.
So I think those two questions are so important, because if people see things in boxes and this is how music should be, and I'm not going to fit in there.
You mean non-musicians?
Oh no, everyone.
Everyone, okay.
Because we can have bias everywhere, and especially musicians, actually, or music critics, or people who think they know music. They might see things like, this is how it needs to be, and I've done it so long, I know it needs to be that, and I really can't see you in that box. So why is that? And then, I'm not going to fit in any boxes. I don't fit in my own box. I surprise myself all the time.
So my experience of the Atlanta experimental music scene is relatively new, but I think it's growing. I think it's important to spotlight. Obviously, I think that's important. Mm-hmm. But how long has that been going on? This Kebbi and you and iDrum and all this kind of stuff.
iDrum has always been since I moved to Atlanta. iDrum has always been an incredible influence for me.
So incredible.
I've seen so many concerts there, start since 2010, even earlier when I visited Atlanta. I started playing I started during COVID, but I did have it severe. I'm one of the long COVID people. So
really?
I had to take completely 9 months out of my life. I was in bed for 9 months, and
oh my
I had
gosh,
to be with the family and all of that. So I had to take a complete break to everything that I didn't know if I would ever be able to do it. But then when I was able to find the right doctors who could understand what would be happening to a female in certain situations, then it was easier for me to find the regimen. But that also, it just kind of pushed me out and just say, Ipek, this is the time. You got to do it. So I wake up every day. I don't know if I'm going to be ever sick again. Today's the day.
Right.
So sometimes when people see my drive in a way that I do this, it's just, to me, I know the loss of it. I know not being able to do that. I know not being able to move a finger for a while. And then I'm grateful that I could talk to you. Every moment is grateful.
Yes, every moment is so special. That concludes part 2 of my interview with Ipek Eginli. Get on Google right now and find out where Ipek is playing next. Her performances are transformative and captivating. Her new album is available through Purplish Records.
Thanks for listening to Art Sluts Radio.
Hey, if you identify with the Art Sluts, explore our herstory at artsluts.net. That's ARTSLUTS.net. And purchase downloads of our music wherever you stream music.
All contributions and purchases will go to support Planned Parenthood.
Currently, 21 states have limited access to women's health care, including abortion, and 15 of those have a total ban.
Talking about your abortion experience, voting and donating to support abortion rights will make a difference.
I hate